So hey guys, it's Kelly again. This live stream is going to be about my thoughts in regards to the new Firestarter 2022 movie trailer and my thoughts on the remake. What I think about it, why I prefer the original 1984 version of Firestarter versus the new trailer. Um, I don't know how many more remakes I'm going to be able to tolerate. We've had remakes of The Witches, Fright Night 1985 version, Fright Night 1988 version, which was then called Fright Night New Blood, Conan the Barbarian, Home Alone, um, Cruella, which is just 101 Dalmatians remade under a different title. Um, this is another remake that is the trailer has been released and it is on YouTube. The difference between this version and the 1984 version, which starred Drew Barrymore, Heather Locklear, Martin Sheen, George C. Scott, Art Carney, Louise Fletcher as Norma, um, is that Charlie McGee did not go to school in the original. She was on the run with her father, who was played by David Keith. He played Andy McGee. Um, there's going to be differences between the original and remake. My thought process is they're just trying to milk this remake for everything that it's worth. Everybody wants to see a different version of Firestarter, be darker, you know, um, less watered down. I prefer the original simply because it follows the book to a certain extent. A lot of it uh, was not followed by the book. I mean, there were certain parts in the book. There was a person that got killed gruesomely in the book, and he got fat. Um, I mean, there's a lot of different similarities between the book and the original movie that was done in '84 with Drew Barrymore and the rest of the cast. I don't know, like I said, how many more remakes I can tolerate because it seems to me Hollywood is running out of ideas to come up with their own storylines and how they perceive the original novels that were done by Stephen King. We've had, along with Firestarter, Fright Night, Conan the Barbarian, The Witches, Fright Night Part 2, which was remade in 2013. We've had remakes of It, which had um, a 1990 miniseries, which was done in two parts. We've had different movies, Footloose. I mean, I could go on and on and on about remakes after remake, but I'm not too fond of the remake for Firestarter. I understand that they want to take it to a different level and make it their own, but how many more remakes are we going to have to put up with? I mean, I don't know. I mean, Hollywood is trying to make everything bigger, better, more more glamorous, more outrageous, and it does not need to be outrageous. It does not need to be big bucks. It does not need to be outlandish. I mean, I prefer the '84 version of Firestarter versus the one that's coming out in May, simply because everything was not done extravagantly. They used a lot of stunt coordinators, stunt doubles, um, pyrotechnics who specialize in doing pyrotechnics for movies such as Firestarter, T2, Terminator 1984, um, different things. Now they want to make it more extravagant, more out there, and it does not need to be more extravagant, more out there. I understand that this new version is going to be a lot darker than the one that was done in '84. As I stated earlier, the one in '84 followed the book more. I don't know if this one's going to follow the book. I don't know how they're going to make it different because in the book and in the movie, Charlie's mother was killed off earlier in the film. which was taken out by the agents because they wanted to see where Charlie was and they wanted Charlie to be studied on, worked on, to see what made her do what she does, start fires and push people like Father Andy. Um, they wanted to use her as a weapon to, you know, protect themselves, but her dad gave her the signal. They took me out, they took your mom out, you might as well take him out for us since we can't do it. Um, the one thing I loved about the original was the father daughter bond between the two. I mean, she was her daddy's apple of her daddy's eye, and he was very protective of her because that's his little girl. You do anything for your little girl to be protected and not harmed in any way, shape, or form, even if it meant you sacrificing yourself, which he did so that she could be safe. She had to take their story to the New York Times in the novel and in the movie. But in the novel, she met with an executive from the New York Post to tell the story of what happened to her and her mother and her dad and try to protect herself. They also did a sequel in 2002 called Firestarter Rekindled. I tried to watch that and it didn't do anything for me. I wasn't intrigued by it. I didn't like it. I couldn't watch it. And if somebody were to bring it up and ask me to watch it again, I'd say no. No. I mean, like I said, Hollywood has become so greedy with trying to do remakes and trying to reimagine everything. Why touch the originals? Why try to redo movies like Firestarter and Fright Night and the Witches and It and all these other movies that we all grew up with in some way or another, try to remake it and make it something more extravagant. It does not need to be extravagant. You just leave them alone. Let the new generation see the original. Read the novel, see the original, and then make a judgment for themselves. I personally like the one with Drew because Drew was, little Drew. This was her being herself, her trying to um, go away from the Gertie role that she had in ET. Because everybody up until that point saw her as little Gertie. She did not want to be seen as little Gertie. She wanted to be, her own person and do different roles and not be typecast as little Gertie. And now, we all have the original. We've seen the original. We pass it on to our children. We've read the novel. I cried reading the novel after I read it back to back. And then I became obsessed with the movie because, I loved it. And I'm just afraid that it's going to lose its luster because we have new people coming in playing the villains, playing the parent, someone else playing Charlie. I just don't know how to take this. I mean, like I said, Hollywood has run out of ideas and trying to make everything more extravagant, more out there with the use of CGI and computer electronics, less prosthetics, less stunt doubles. I don't know how they're gonna make it successful. I doubt it will be successful. I like I said, I grew up with the '84 version, reading the novel and becoming obsessed with both the novel and the movie. Um, I don't understand Hollywood's obsession with remakes. I really don't, and it's sad. Um, this is not something I wanted to hear or see or read about, but it's already happened. I don't know how to take it. I don't know how many more remakes are going to be done with other movies. They've done the Terminator franchise movies, Terminator Terminator 1984 version, T2, Judgment Day 90s, and then in 2003 they managed to do T3 Rise of the Machines, Terminator Salvation, Terminator Genesis, Terminator Dark Fate, which totally crapped on T2's ending, which is what made me fall in love with that character of Terminator from going from bad guy to good guy and killing off John Connor. I don't know how they're going to make this young actress be different, have the storyline be different versus the one that was done in '84, which like I said, her daddy gave her the signal. You can go ahead and take him out. take them out for me, make sure they don't do this to anybody else because we're being used as experiments for human beings, and I want you to have a normal life, normal upbringing. In the book, she didn't go to school. I mean, they talk that Stephen King wrote it as her, having been a normal child, not normal infant, not being able to go to school because people were hunting them down. In the novel and in the original, she did not go to school. In this one, it seems like they want her to go to school so that they would have more of a reasoning behind it for her to use her powers. Well, in the novel and in the original, she didn't go to school. She was on the run. Her and her father were on the run from um, the shop. And when it came to doing her pyrokinesis, she would tighten up her fists and her hair would be, in the air. Is to keep her body from overheating, and her panting is to keep herself from overheating and killing herself. So I don't know how they're going to do that part either. I don't know if they're going to be completely different from that as well. I mean, like I said, I prefer the 1984 version over the new one that's coming out. I don't know how to take this. I understand everybody wants to see something different, something darker. I don't know how dark it's going to get. To me, little Charlene Charlie Roberta McGee will always be Drew Barrymore. Little Drew Barrymore, 8 years old. Little Drew, 8-year-old Drew Barrymore. I can't see anybody else taking that role. She made it what it was. She worked with what she had to work with, and she made it work to her advantage. Um, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe I don't know. I honestly don't know. And like I said, Hollywood has become extremely greedy. Everything has become more extravagant, more out there, more computerized, more CGI, less prosthetics, stunt doubles, stunt coordinators, people that work pyro. I mean, there's people that do this for a living, and I feel like a lot of the people that have worked on movies, such as the original Firestarter, don't get their credit because they're putting their lives to do dangerous stunts. You're doing dangerous stunts, working with pyro, working with prosthetics and different things to make those characters and those scenes from that movie come to life. And I'm afraid that part as well is going to get lost within this remake because they want to make it their own, but how can you do that when so many people, prefer the original over the remake and they've only seen the trailer? I've seen the trailer. I see what they're trying to do. They want to make it different, but how can you do that when so many people prefer the original over the remake? I prefer the original over the remake. I always have, always will, and I'm going to leave it at that. That's where I stand on that. Everybody's going to have their different point of view. Yes, this is going to be darker, but how? In what way? I mean, like I said, Charlie didn't go to school in the novel or in the original. She was on the run with her father from the shop. Her mom was killed off by people from the shop. Um, she constantly had to be taught it was a bad thing. You got to learn to control it. It's a bad thing. And then when her father gave her the okay to do it, she didn't know how to control it because she had let it all go. All of it. Every single thing, every single bit of anger, every single emotion that she held in because, she wanted to make sure that if she had to do it, she needed to make sure that it was okay with daddy because she didn't want to hurt nobody. She didn't want to hurt anyone. And, little Drew did this to the best of her ability. I kid you not, when I read the novel and I finished it, I cried. I cried for a good 5-10 minutes. And then when I watched the movie, I cried because it meant so much to me and it has a specific meaning for me as a little kid going into teenage years because it was bond she had with her father that I had with ours. That's the kind of bond I had with our dad as well. So everybody's gonna have their own opinion, you know. I have mine. You can have yours. We can agree to disagree. I want Hollywood to stop with the remakes because it's becoming more and more extravagant. Everything has to be bigger, better, all of that. And it doesn't need to be like that. It doesn't need to be like that. You've seen it with other movies. Twilight, the first installment, was a lot more intimate. It had an indie feel to it. They went and they did New Moon, Eclipse, Breaking Dawn Part 1, Breaking Dawn Part 2. And as it got towards the end of the franchise, they tried to make it bigger, better, more extravagant when it didn't need to be bigger, better, more extravagant. Make it into something it wasn't. So, but that's just me. Everybody's going to be entitled to their own opinion. No feelings are hurt. I promise. This is just me sitting my. So, all right. Thank you. Bye.